Okay, and so there is another great researcher that, I mean, great is, is it's not even enough to describe him, but that I know that you had the opportunity to meet, and unfortunately he left our realm recently, and I would like you to talk about your encounters with him, what you learned from him. Is Kalala Omotunde.
Yes, unfortunately, like 2 days ago, the great teacher, actually, I didn't know, but it's funny. He was, so I think he was born in Martinique and he grew up in Guadeloupe. But anyway, it's the same people. And so it is very interesting because this teacher, like, I was very, very sad, to be honest, because this teacher, and I think a lot of people in the Black community, because he taught us a lot of things about ourselves, about our culture, but ourselves on the knowledge who we truly are, in the same legacy as Sheikh Anta Diop and as a lot of people who came before him. But he was very young, in a sense that, like, he has done so many books, so many uh, works that still now you can find nowadays, that he has worked on. And recently, like, he just received some Nobel, not a Nobel Prize, but like he received the prize of um associated with Pan-Africanism and associated with the field of knowledges that he was involved in. And that's that. Last 6 months, 7 months ago, I had the chance, like, to meet him, like, during a conference here in Martinique. And I have to say, like, this, I think this that he is such a man. Like, he's very kind, like, he could speak to you like as he was your friend, but like the knowledge that he possesses is just, I was just like, oh, master. He's just like, it's just like, yeah, I'm not your friend, but and he really, like, right away, he started, like, to explain me, hey, he said, like, hey, what is your, not my purpose, but what is your project in life? I said, yeah, I don't know, I'm just, like, involved in music, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he was like, okay, and he explained me two or three things, that, like, he was building a market basically with some young students of his institute, because he has an institute called, so that's one of his uh not book, but at the journal, if you can see it. But this is the name of the institute, Annie Art. And he has, like, some students that he enrolled in the institute, to teach them how to invest and create e-market, basically. And he was explaining me that, like, basically, like, if I want it in North Korea or in South Korea, like, he could manufacture some product of our home, of our islands, Guadeloupe, Martinique, and for a cheaper price, make them export them there, to internationalize, like, the market, in terms of branding and in terms of visibility for our stuff. Because I think the matter was that, like, we don't have a platform where our products from our island can get visible for our community first, but for the rest of the people. So he was explaining me, like, some tips and tricks, that he had, and that could apply. So in that sense, that he was trying to showing me that, like, truly there was no limit, like, in the field of possibility, like, if I wanted to do something. That's where, like, he wanted to bring the level, like, to show me that there is no limit, like, if I wanted to really put something in the ground. But yeah, I'm really still sad of his demise, because, like, I think no one expected that. But I think he did the job that he needed to do. and it's now up to us to make sure that like his legacy is gonna live on, and for the next generation.
100%, 100%. Okay, so now I would like to discuss with you some of your own projects that you have going on. So, for example, I know that you are very involved in terms of agriculture projects. So,
Bah, ça va facile, hein.
so same, I would like you to like maybe tell us how you got into, because agriculture is not simply, I would say, an action. It's also, it comes back to this whole consciousness. So how did you get into the consciousness to do this and everything?
Definitely. So I would say like that came just as like the same journey a little bit, I would say, for my dreadlocks that I had. So obviously, like, because we said like it's a way of thinking that you have to get. So in that same field, like I started like obviously when I was young to get more close with the stuff from nature, and agriculture. Obviously, like if you go with the farmer man, if you go with Rastafari, at some point you're gonna have to put your hands in the dirt, put your hands in the earth. So you know, uh, so that started like when I was a little bit around 14, 15. I always like to do in the bush, to go at the river and like to get some inspiration from the source. So naturally my mother, she kind of understood that, and she put me in a agricultural school that we have here in Martinique, Lecta de Quarivai. And like from that day on, I started like to get involved theoretically and physically as well in the sphere of agriculture, because I met different people and different teacher around that sphere who taught me about uh, the proper way, because like like they are the basis of just teaching you agriculture and the general components of it, but they didn't necessarily show us like what was the proper way, because oftentimes like the vision that those teacher had was the vision of, I'd say, of it's a little bit colonizing type of growing conventional way of doing things, which is not really appropriate according to the time that we're living in, because now we have to really think about another way of producing our stuff, our food, and everything that we're using like in our daily life. So from that day, like I got my diploma and I went to France to try to push some more in the studies and in the field of agriculture. So I got into horticulture, I got into different stuff, botanic, and like the different category in the same word. And after that, I went to Canada, like same, like to that. At that time, that was less agriculture, because I wanted to discover some new places in my personal life. So I had like different goals, but I was still, aligned with the rootical part, the roots, and my roots in general. So that made me never forget uh, the use of planting, the use of growing your food, and everything like that. So I was more involved in landscaping when I was in Canada, And now that I'm back home, like I'm just trying to put in place some reliable stuff in terms of producing our food. First of all, for my personal family, but on a bigger scale for whosoever would like to have something in his belly, just as a simple principle, anyone who deserve to be fed, like properly as any other human. So I'm trying right now, like to clean a little bit my garden. And so recently I started to buy some roasters, some chicken, and
faut laisser tirer par les autres là, faut qu'ils sont café, faut marabout les mamitos tête.
so they give me eggs. I go every day and I just pick up the eggs. I give them food at the same time. And I have also a goat down there who was really helping me a lot because he's since it was very bushy down there, so he's doing really a good job.
Ça nous frère. Moi d'où passer devant. Adé nèg. Devant. Aku peut aller en laisser Balanta parce que tout mal même. Non. Et tout là.
He's really young. He's really nice. And on the other end, we trying to um, uh, bring an association that we called Agri 97, and this particular association is the goal. The fundamental goal is to promote a sustainable way of producing food, but of also eating food, and as I said before, like for everyone. So at some point we would have like some uh, quality in the product that we are making, because that's very important. Like we had the realization that like it is not enough to make something local, because local, it can be local and it still can be poison. If we take the issue of Chloredecone, yes, it's local, but it's poisoned. So now we have to see in a different perspective. We have to, of course, make it local, but make it sustainable and healthy for whosoever gonna consume it after. So that's something that's really something that we're trying to focus on. The ethic, I would say, like put some moral in the stuff that we do, because like if we don't put that ethic and that moral, at the end of the day, there's no use to doing it. And so it's something that step by step, because we had some obstacles on the way, even to build the association. uh Everyone on the part of the association trying to do their best in their personal life to accumulate enough funds and enough money, I would say, on the financial perspective, to finance some of the I would say the requiring steps to really begin, even though we already began, but we're starting with our own pockets, which was a little bit hard in the beginning, because sometimes like you don't necessarily see the comeback, but we don't doing it like to see like any return in terms of money. Like it's just more like in terms of keep it rolling, in a sense that like having enough funds so you can keep it like it can still grow, and not like just like as we are now, we're trying to figure out like strategies and people that like we're gonna eventually meet to help us grow in the way that we want to grow, even though like we also have the subvention that are available for us, even though we have to do some formalities in terms of administration and stuff. But that's something else that we're trying to do. So I think it always, like I said before, charity begins at home. So I'm trying to do my parts at home, first of all, by putting some chickens, putting some stuff, planting some vegetables. I have like eggplants. I have like different plants, tomatoes that I'm trying to grow, lettuce, and on my balcony, like trying to find different strategy, like to grow foods at home, and like if possible, sustainably wise for everyone. So that's the journey that like we're trying to put in place right now.
Okay, that's dope. Like for real, like good luck on that, because it's necessary, for us. We live in I mean, I don't live, so I say we, but Martinique is an island where we should have, we can produce food to satisfy our needs. So that's very necessary. And so I wanted to touch back on, you mentioned the situation with Chloredecone. So I could summarize for people watching. Basically, what happened is that there was this substance called Chloredecone. In the US, they called it Capon. And so
Yes,
they were using it right at first in the US everywhere. And very soon they found out that it was causing cancers, right? And in the US, they prohibited it in, I think it was in 1974 or something, right? But in Martinique and Guadeloupe, the planters, which are what we call the beke, they worked kind of with the French government to keep on using it to go around, the interdiction, and they kept using it until the 90s, 1993, if I'm correct. Now the problem with that is that we have the highest rate in the world of prostate cancer in the world, and nobody is, and they knew since the 70s, right, that this substance was causing problem, because the US stopped it, and so they still decided to use it for profit, and there is the justice is not doing anything. And so that's why earlier in the conversation I was saying that for us in particular in Martinique, like in Guadeloupe, we have reasons sometimes to be careful around white people because of our own history. And for example, one it's not an event, but one thing that is going on right now is the trial for there are people that protested against this, and the justice, instead of dealing with the criminals, they want to lock up the protesters. And I know you were following these events. Wait, we cannot hear you.
Excuse me. Good? No. Yes. No. That I think that's very right, and that's very important to mention that that episode, because I think it was yesterday. Yeah, exactly. There was that. No, 2 days ago. Excuse me. 2 days ago, there was the protest against that trial for the people like who demand justice for the poisoning for the chlordecone, because there has been some event in 2017, at some supermarket where there was like altercation with the police officers and stuff. So like they wanted to do yeah, a trial like for those people. Like there were 7 in total, like from what they got, 7 that like um, put them in trouble, let's say. And now in the on the other hand, like we had the trial for reclaiming justice on the Chlordecone to know who's responsible and who's guilty, you know, to ask the government and France, especially like to ask what happened, because we know there is the evidence of a lot of people like uh, in the in that case that were involved and that even gave their personal agreement during that time to keep spreading the poison. So now we're trying to find a responsibility, people that like are guilty or so-called guilty, and now it seems like all the proofs like they're disappearing, and you know, like no one is responsible. And like you mentioned it, like on the other hand, like they're trying to put repression on the one who demand justice for that. So this is a very huge problem, and uh, I think we don't realize also that like something that like uh, if we don't pay attention for the next generation, because we know our soil is contaminated for 400, 500 years, and we have the highest rate of cancer, prostate cancer in the world, and also for the girl like on their breast cancer. So this is something really detrimental for us, because once again throughout history, like you can see that like against black people, like they managed to lead a war that they don't call war officially against us, you know. um I didn't, unfortunately, because I had some trouble with my rooster down there and my chicken, so I had to fix that. I was a little bit uh, vexed because I couldn't assist what happened. But the great news is that they're gonna put the trial to another date in 2023 in April, if I'm not mistaken. So I was glad, all in all, that there was some bridgings and sistering that went there, like to put some pressure on the government, and like at the end of the day that they could like have some delay, I would say some delay to to get justice, because everyone now seeing what they're trying to do. They're trying to do a kind of they're trying to put the situation at their advantage, where we know they're the one that like put the poison, but no one is guilty, you know. And now that you're gonna, it's like you know, like I give you a slap, and after like you punch me, and I say, oh, why did you punch me? But I slap you before, right? You know, it's just like it's the same case in that sphere. So in that sense, that's why we have to make sure like to, not only I was saying like to say in the conventional way, because it can be local, but it can be poison. So local is not enough. We have to make sure that like what we do, for example, me is just like I have my, there's a brand on that, but it's just whatever. Like this is my source water. Like I go to grab my source water at the river and I drink it. I don't drink because I don't drink tap water. I know it's contaminated, you know. A lot of people know that. So that's why like some people like those installation of filters, you know, on their tap to lessen the effect of the contamination. But we really have to think about the way we consume and the way we do our everyday stuff, especially regarding eating and drinking, because that's the first two fields that they're using to killing us, plain and simple. So yeah, that's a very very good subject like to talk about, like chlordecone, because unfortunately like We have Guadeloupe, the next island also, who's concerned, and maybe some other part in the world, because apparently from what I heard, they put the industry of capon in Brazil. So I would love to ask the people in Brazil how they're doing out there, because I'm not sure like if they're aware of what it is. Yeah.
Okay, and yeah, thanks to you to mention the other problems linked to that, because it was my fault. Like at first, I mostly mentioned, I think, the prostate cancer, but like you said, our soils are poisoned for the next hundreds of years. Females also have problems. I know there is also glyphosate that was used, and now it's causing birth defects. Females have problem with their menstruations. Like it's really like a lot of um, terrible things that are happening, and the people cannot do anything because this is where you live, this is where you take your food from, and it's poison, you know. So what option do you really have? Yeah. And so I know you're an artist too, musical artist.
To survive, have to survive. In this concrete jungle, we pay the price. Do you really think them I care for our lives? I don't need much for me to realize. Have to survive, have to stop violence in the street, police brutality, no life quality, all those iniquities to the people need. A great separation. The one called government, say who you represent. The fire of the bone on the whole of them, for I've been spreading all the innocent blood.
So could you also talk to us about this, maybe some of your future projects? I know a song of yours because I'm seeing the flag behind you, Rouge Venoué. So yeah. Wait, you're still on mute.
Excuse me. Yes. No, I was saying just that I started music when I was around the age of 15, 16. To be honest, like we used to go like, just like as something like as a joke, I said, like we just started like for fun, just with a couple of friends, like we go to the studio, just we rap, blah 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 blah, and like, and after like with the time, with the same route was with the journey of the dreadlocks, the Rastafarism music, like everything like came like in a snowball rolling and getting bigger. So from that time, I never uh, left the music part, in the sense that I kept going with some people like in Canada that I met when during my during the time I've been there, and I've been living there for 4 years and a half. So I met some good people like in terms of music, and I did also different festival regarding also the African culture. So all in all, like I have an album like on the way. So I'm still looking forward for that, like in terms of finance, to promote that and to get it out there. And last night, for instance, I was in a place called La Volga, and like they do a lot of show there, uh, in kind of a jam session style, and where you can express, it's open mics kind of stuff, so you can express yourself. And I know for matter of fact that like I've been talking with the owner of the place and different guy musician that were in the audience, and I know like they would like to do a cooperation, a collaboration, a featuring with me. Like for example, like on the 3rd of December, they're talking about like something at that Sahel is gonna play, and they would like to me to do the introduction, that things like that, So that's gonna be very interesting, like it's the local artist of the country. So we're talking of different collaboration, different featuring. And also now I have a project with an older brother, and it's all about like what everything that I'm trying to do now, and even my album now, is bring consciousness, but bring education and knowledge to the people. Like I have different songs on different topics, like the flags you mentioned, Rouge Venway. I trying to explain what is the vision, what is the meaning behind what I'm trying to say, and also I'm trying to bring the knowledge of self, I would say. Like I did a song called Kwanzaa because a lot of people like don't know Kwanzaa, which is well spread in the Black community now. I think we can say it, and it's ritual that we do towards the end of the year to pay respect to ancestors, but also to the fact that we are a community and that like we are one people and we have our traditions that we share, and we did those kind of moments that you can share with your family as well. And like for every day you have each day there is a principle. You have economic, you have the reliability, you have different topics, like different days, different topics. And that's really what I'm trying to bring with my music, is like bring the consciousness and bring more like the ability to think by yourself for yourself, because that is very important. I'd like we can be disagreed on something, but at least you think for yourself by yourself, and that's what is really important.
Okay, I see. And what were some of the, because you mentioned some of the festivals that you went through in different places. Could you also like talk to us about these different experiences?
Sure. So the one I did was, so I did two exactly. There was one for, when the George Floyd protest, Black Lives Matter, I think it was, down in Vancouver. So I did that one, first of all. And that was downtown Vancouver. I can't remember the date exactly, but yeah, that was a well-crowded people, and I think that was my very first time in front of the crowd in Vancouver, because I never really performed in front of people in Canada up to that day. So that was a little bit like not frightening, but knowing the topic that it was, like some of our brother, they killed our brother, so that was a little bit specific. So there was that festival. It was very, very cool. So everything ended up well. I had like good feedback after, and that's even after that event that I met the guy who organized the festival, Afromat Festival, it's called, and he's from Nigeria. Iseadi, that's his name, and he's from Nigeria. He invited me because that was the COVID time, so we couldn't do it like in an open space with an audience. So what we did is like we did a retransmission. We did it like virtual, and people like could go see it after. And I sung 3 songs, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And that was a very, very nice project, because it was all the tribes. So this festival was really about all the tribes that has been scattered from Africa. And obviously, like, since I was from the Caribbean, so I was a part of that tribes that been scattered around the world. So that was a very, very, very great experience of the African part in Canada. So I'm really glad.
Okay, that's really dope. So thank you very much, bro, again for accepting the invitation, and taking the time to do this with me. I really appreciate that. And so good luck in all of your future projects. Where can people check you out, for the difference of maybe for your music, or also Agri 97? Are there like ways for people to follow this?
Yes, definitely. Yes, I would like to thank you first of all. Like, it's a pleasure also for me to respond for your invitation, because it's been a long time that we have been planning this. So that's I'm really glad to have this conversation with you. And for people like to reach me out, like they can go on Spotify, on YouTube, and you just tap Peter Bunker. You should find my name and my videos. For Agri97, so since now we're not really well established for now, maybe later I could give like some proper information about that association. But hopefully, like, we're gonna have like also a collaboration with different brothers and sisters from the US, from Canada, from Africa. So at that time, I think we're gonna have a more bigger visibility, like for everyone to see us. So, but for now, like, people, like, they can check me out on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Peter Bunker, and you'll find me out.
All right, bro. So again, thanks. More love and guidance, protection, and blessing. You already know, bro.
Yes, I give thanks to everyone that's watching, and I really appreciated that moment, and I hope that I could be the more I could, like, decisive in my response, so everyone could understand.
If you feel the urge for you to emulate identity, more than a style behind, there are some great beliefs. Hey, you copy and paste, this is not working. Like an aftertaste of a bittersweet. Enough of them, work like we want.